It's all about smart pens, smart arms, smart cider.
Gotta be smart.
Got to be smart. All right, I think I've caught my breath. I think we're all rolling. So let's kick it off. What do you
Let's kick
reckon?
it off, my friend.
All right, and welcome to the Pagey Train. Today I have in the studio with me Tom Danger, writer, director. Welcome to the Pagey Train.
Man, I've waited so long for someone to introduce me like that. It feels good.
Yeah, man. Well, it's something that's totally earned, man. I remember our encounter didn't involve alcohol straight away.
No, it did not.
We actually met at university.
Yeah, it's a while ago now, and
Wow.
it's a really pure chance that it happened at all. Because
totally.
I was wandering the hallways. I'm pretty sure it was my first year, because being someone who had gone from being in high school, everyone, it's a pretty good time, to then being in university where you really know no one, and I was still kind of finding my footing. And I saw a piece of paper on the wall that was like, wanted screenwriter. And I was like, I'm one of those. I've written things. I've made things. What's this all about? And essentially it was an advertisement asking about, people to put their hand in for writing a sci-fi TV show. And I was like, I'm all about sci-fi. I'm all about TV shows. Let's see what this is about. And so I chased it up, and it was our boy Adrian. And
Adrian
Mariani. Who,
You have just given me an acid flashback, dude.
Who ended up being the first AD on my first feature. So I met him because I followed up on that little flyer that he had put up, because he had this show that he wanted to develop, and I wrote the pilot for him. And then we met up with you because there was this thing that, we were like, maybe we can get together and make this happen. Didn't end up happening because it was pretty high concept for, because what it involved was like a worldwide blackout, yeah. Electricity just disappears like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's cool. And
Wow, man, you're blowing my fucking mind, dude.
that was when I first met you. We were all sitting around on a couch, and I had like my script in hand. We were like, this is what it is. But I remember Adrian saying the script I wrote was as good as the concept allows it to be, and I was like, that's a compliment. Yeah, it is. I'll take that as a quite a good compliment.
I don't know what that is. I don't know. Big shout out to you, Adrian. I haven't talked to you in a long time.
I don't think he's on Facebook anymore.
No.
But I knew that because when he was, there was just endless Bernie Sanders stuff.
Yeah, he did go a bit Bernie Sanders crazy there for a bit.
So when, there was an election...
But who wouldn't? Who wouldn't?
You know what? When there was an election cycle coming up, and I didn't see Bernie Sanders stuff, and I was like, Adrian, something's wrong. Where is he?
He's in hospital. He's been in a car wreck.
Something's happened.
His hands have been removed.
Someone's replaced Adrian with someone else.
I don't think that's possible, knowing Adrian. There's only one Adrian Mariani.
Only one Adrian. But yeah, so that he and I became quite good friends after that. And when I was in my second year, the prospect of making a feature occurred to me. And I'm very much a student of like Kevin Smith and Robert Rodriguez, all the boys who... I'll do it myself, like they're like, I don't need it. I can do it. And
I remember you saying this back at university. I'm like, there goes a crazy man.
Yeah, well, but it occurred to me that, yeah, man, this equipment that what was the equipment guy named? Greg.
Oh, Greg's still there.
My
Greg's
boy,
still there.
of course he is. I love that guy.
Yeah.
He helped me out a lot, actually. He'd always be there, and I'd chat to him on occasion.
Big shout out, buddy.
Yeah, Greg, what a guy.
Hope you're watching the show. You'd love it.
So. But like, it occurred to me that all this equipment is here, and no one's using it in the semester break. It's just kind of sitting here, and I was like, surely, if I wanted to shoot something over the semester break, I could just take it and then give it back. Like, no one's gonna miss it. So I ended up liaising with the dean a little bit. And I was like, is this possible? Like, would I be able to, like, let's say I wrote something and I took it for like 2 months and then gave it back by the start of the next semester. Could I do that? And they couldn't really find a reason to say no, because, they want to foster good, ambitious young men and women. Yeah, go ahead and do it. So I was like, all right, cool. And so I wrote a script, and it was very much like, because I've always been like horror. Like horror has always been my jam. Like growing up, horror was all about it. So I'm a huge fan of like John Carpenter, and Escape from New York was and remains one of my favorite films of all time.
I fucking love the character Snake Plissken, man.
Fuck it, Escape from New York. It's one of those flicks that
awesome.
I can go back to it like at any point, and it still holds up. And you know the argument.
Ernest Borgnine as a cab driver, great.
I mean, you got Isaac Hayes as the Duke. I was like, this is great. And there's so much stuff about that movie where you can just look at it and be so impressed, because even the wireframe imaging of like the 3D computers, where it's like, Snake Plissken, you have to take this flight plan into Manhattan that's surrounded by the walls because it's a prison. And like the plane, goes over the wall and it lands in the city, and what you're seeing on the screen is like the green outlines. It's like the Matrix kind of thing. But
the 80s Matrix.
Yeah. But like that on the screen is literally just a model of a city, just completely black, and then outlined in like highlighted green. So it looks like a computer thing, but it's literally just it's a practical effect. And that shit is fascinating to me, and I love that stuff growing up. So I was like, he can do shit like that. I'm sure I can make a feature film and just kind of fake my way through it, right? I can do that. And, knowing what Kevin Smith had done with Clerks and what Robert Rodriguez did with El Mariachi and Toby Hooper with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I was like, if I've got at least a little bit of equipment and a dedicated crew of people around me, then this can definitely work. And I didn't know what kind of camera I was going to use, but luckily Greg told me that they were talking about getting in a Blackmagic cinema camera.
That's right.
And back then that was like a big deal. It was like
huge deal.
Yeah, well, it is still, but like it was the first one they brought out.
Yeah, but this is like a thing that had an SSD card in it.
SSD, like it shot 2.5K back when people didn't know what 2.5K was. It was like, wow, that's cool. And I remember in like the classes we were taking, we were still using one of the cameras with tape, and it didn't shoot HD. It just shot onto a little cassette thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, it'd be really cool if I could shoot on a Blackmagic, because I watched some like reviews on YouTube, and the image quality to me was like, damn, it's like cinema, fucking Scorsese up in here.
Do you want to know something cool about those cameras? I've got a little bit inside goss.
Please.
Because only 2 people were allowed to use those cameras, and one of them's me, and the other one was you. Not even the lecturers were allowed to use that camera.
That makes
I don't know
me
how
very happy.
Yeah, but but we both conned them into letting us use it in the off season.
Yeah,
because we had to compete for the camera.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. They too, though.
Yeah, they too. But yeah, like I campaigned for them to let me use it, because I was like, I'm making a feature. This isn't a short film. This isn't a music video. I want to kind of put my best foot forward, and the Blackmagic is the best way for me to do that. So they ended up relenting, and it was great. And so I wrote the script in late Jesus Christ, I'm forgetting. Late 2012.
2012? Yeah.
No. Late 2012.
Yeah, it
I'm
would have
right.
been 2012, yeah.
Late 2012. So the first semester of 2013, I had the film in pre-production. I was getting together like my actors and my crew. I had like some of my fellow classmates, like my girl Amanda, really helped me out all through production. She right now is like doing really well. She's working at a production studio, like directing commercials and stuff. I don't see it very often, but like when I do, it's always great. She came on board pretty early, because she was like, from the first week of being at university, I was wearing a Rocky Horror Picture Show shirt.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
And we were just waiting outside for one of our first classes. Oh, was she wearing the shirt? One of us was wearing a Rocky Horror shirt.
Sure it was you.
Well, but I know I had one, but but she had one that was exactly the same, and one of us was wearing it. And so we just kind of looked at each other, looked at whoever wasn't wearing the shirt, looked at the one who was wearing the shirt, and was like, we're going to be friends now, because like we don't know anyone, but you like Rocky Horror, so clearly we're going to get on. And it just happened like that. So it's pretty cool. I auditioned, a few actors and stuff like that. Ended up finding my boy Jace, who, as you know, doing very well now. He made Fragmentary.
Yeah, man.
He was on board the Pagey Train not too long ago.
Yeah, I need to get him back on the show, because I had him. It was one of those COVID episodes,
right?
So I got to get him he hasn't had the in-studio experience, right, and I think Jace would totally do that. Big shout out, buddy! I'm hunting you down,
my boy. But yeah, like meeting Jace was like wonderful, and I was able to get him because Alana, my lead, got him for me, because I was really having trouble finding a male lead for the lead role, and I was like, Alana, do you know anyone who kind of fits this role? And she was like, yeah, I got a few people. One guy in particular, because they went to acting school together. She was like, I'll get him to come in for an interview. So he came in, he was great. And then I was like, great, I've got my lead actor, I've got my leading lady. I'll fill in the blanks later, but I've got a movie here. I found Logan, who has gone on to become essentially my hetero life mate. He's the Silent Bob to my Jay. He's the Scooby to my Shaggy. But the story of Logan and I kind of reconnecting is honestly, I don't want to put it up on a pedestal, but kind of puts Romeo and Juliet to shame. But because way back when I was younger, I was doing drama classes with my brother, and it was with a teacher called Miss Angie, just Chris King's Young Talent School in Gosford. That's what it was. And my brother and I both wanted to be actors, and let's act. We want to be like Jim Carrey. We want to be like all of our favorite people, like John Cleese, Rowan Atkinson, all these movies and TV shows that we grew up watching. So we both started going to drama school, and then we both split because he was 2 years older than me, and so he went to like an older class and I went to my own class, so went like that. But then years later, I was at a job interview at Toys R Us, and this was just after I'd written Lead Me Astray, and I wanted a job so I could get money so I could make the film, because I was like, no one's going to give me money to make this film. If I'm going to make it, I got to make it myself. Better get some cash monies to buy props and feed people and stuff.
That's what everyone usually forgets when they're starting out, is feeding their crew.
Well, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I only fed them pizza, but they were fed.
I think my first film I did Subway sandwiches.
Subway's a good one. Ended up going to,
Pizza's better though. More expensive though.
Well, if you're going Domino's and you're buying in bulk and you're just getting the value range, it works out pretty cheap.
Yeah, okay.
Because you can get like one pizza between two people and it works out fine.
Yeah.
But you got to go to Coles, go to the deli, just get like a big slab of pasta salad. It works out fine.
Well, the ones that annoy me the most, though, I must say, are the particular diet people. Because we always ask everyone who's on our set, have you got allergies, that sort of thing. And there's always one person, and not like I'm sure vegans are all fine, but you're really hard to cater for. I'm just saying.
I mean, I'm a vegetarian, and I've been that guy when I've been on set, and I'm like, where's the vegetarians do? I'm like, I know you hate me, but
normally you're 1/3 of the food budget. You are more expensive to feed.
Personally, I'm pretty easy to please. Give me some bread and I'm fine. Like my taste palette is very immature. Like when I was younger, I was happy. I had this whole system set up where I had a piece of bread, another piece of bread. This is before I was vegetarian. Some fish fingers, sandwich them between the bread, take off the crust, roll up the crust into little like swirls, eat that, break the thing in half, turn the bread. I had this whole thing eating.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
I'm sure a lot of people do similar things, but the point is I have a very basic taste palette. But then shooting, and then we. So Toys R Us, interview.
Yeah, interview at Toys R Us.
Interview at Toys R Us. So I'm there to get a job, hopefully make some money, and there I see Logan, when we hadn't met before. But we just started talking because we're just two happy young chaps, just like, hey man, what's going on? Yeah, hey man, how are you? And he turned out that he was an actor, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like I'm a filmmaker. The whole reason why I'm here is because I'm making a movie, and I want to get the money. Yeah, need the money. I was young, I needed the money. And he was like, that's cool. And I was like, you'd be pretty good for one of the roles, because my villain he's kind of a wild man. He's got like long hair, angry features, and Logan, what a sweetheart. But I could see him playing that role because he had like long hair and shit like that.
Yeah, these were like the woods people.
Yeah. And so we bonded that night, and then afterwards, added each other on Facebook, and I was like, man, I hope he gets the job. I hope I get the job. We'll work together. It'll be cool. Because it's cool making a friend. Not so much like, I'm glad he's my friend so I can put him in my movie. I'm just glad I met a guy, met a bro. And I ended up getting the job. He didn't. A fact that I still make fun of him for. Super funny. But I sent him the script, and talking over Facebook about random crap, and I was asking him like, so like what stuff have you done before? Like what stuff have you acted in or whatever? He was like, oh, like done stuff in high school, like done a few things after that. Here's a video I made with my friends, amateur shit that we all did in high school, because that's all I had to my name at that point. He was like, this is what I've done. I'm like, this is cool. and I was like done like acting training or whatever. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to this acting class. I've been doing it for a while. And when I was younger, I went to Chris King's Young Talent School. And I was like, huh, really? I mean, I went to Chris King's Young Talent School. My teacher's name was Miss Angie. And Logan's like, my teacher's name is Miss Angie. And I said, there was a guy in my class called Logan. He's like, there was a guy in my class called Tom. Logan and I actually met a decade prior.
Yeah, wow.
And then lost contact because it was, primary school and people didn't have, mobile phones or anything. So we had met way back when we were still in primary school, disappeared from each other's lives and then reconnected a decade later against all odds. And I was like, how romantic.
Well, that's happened to me a few times in my life, man. It's really surprising how small the world can be. I remember I just met my wife, 12 years ago, and I was just getting to know her family, and I was sitting across from this dude having dinner. One of her cousin's husbands, and then something just struck me in the brain. I'm like, I know this guy.
Yeah.
I know this guy. And then I said something really creepy. I've gone,
as you do,
yeah, as you do in that moment. I've gone, man, I've watched you eat before. He's like,
I know the way you look, man.
Yeah. You smell different when you're awake. That kind of creepy comment. I'm like, no. But then I was like, no, that's it. We served in the army together.
Oh shit!
And he's like, yeah. And I go, we went to East Timor together. He goes, yeah. And we served in the same peacekeeping operation in East Timor.
How long ago was this between those
2 points? 7 years.
Damn.
Yeah, 7 years between those points, I think. Maybe 8 in that spectrum.
Well, I think at least in kind of the filmmaking world, or like at least in like kind of Sydney, everyone kind of does know everyone. Like if you don't know someone, you definitely know someone who knows that someone.
Yeah, it is a small community.
Yeah,
definitely,
it is.
Definitely in the film community.
For sure. So finally, once I got the job, raised a bit of money, I had my villain, I had my 2 leads, and everything kind of fell into place. I had a bit of a setback because the film, I said it was kind of like Escape from New York. Well, the whole final act of the film originally was set inside an abandoned shopping center, and
hard location to find.
Hard location to find, you'd think.
Yeah.
But the only reason I wrote it that way is because there was one just down the road from where I lived in Gosford, because Gosford's a hole.
Actually, I've just
and it's
thought of
just got, empty buildings and shit everywhere because no one wants to go there or shop there or anything. And I was like, I could get some use out of that abandoned shopping center. And true to the kind of Escape from New York theme I had going, the whole story is like, Alexis's girl gets taken to like the lair of the villain. He has to go in and save her and beat up some fucking gangsters and all that shit. And so I was liaising with Gosford Council for like months, trying to get permission to shoot inside this shopping center.
Yeah. You're already making me feel terrible.
Oh,
You're talking
man.
to the council. That is painful.
Yeah, man. They fucking ran me so much, and I filled in all their forms. I answered all their fucking questions. I did everything they asked me to do. Oh, jack shit. I
knew it.
I didn't realize it, but they never wanted to help me. They just wanted me to go away. But like, I'll get him to fill out this form. Maybe then that'll dissuade him. I was like, I'm not going to dissuade. I need to shoot my movie. So eventually, they stopped replying to my emails, stopped taking my phone calls. I went to the shopping center and spoke to the security guard. I was like, do you have someone I can talk to about this? And they were like, I don't know, maybe talk to this guy or whatever. And when I finally did get in contact with them again, they were angry with me. They're like, how dare you go there and talk to our security guard and ruin his day at work or whatever. I was like, bro, I'm just trying to make a movie.
Yeah, totally ruined his day.
Yeah, I was like, you don't have to be a dick about it. But eventually it did come down to them yelling at me over the phone, just leave it the fuck alone. We're not going to let you film there. What don't you understand? And I was like, well, if you just said that from the beginning, I wouldn't have pursued it. But you kept making me think that it was a thing that could happen. So, egg on your face, sir.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, that's fucking Gosford, man. I hate that place. I mean, I lived there for a long time, but I hate it, man. Yeah, they were super unhelpful.
Some LGAs are good, but some are really bad.
Yeah. But really bad. Yeah. But then I had a script without an ending, I had nowhere to shoot this abandoned shopping center. I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to rewrite. And this was a few months before principal photography, maybe 2-3 months, something like that. And I was like, what's another kind of big empty area that I can kind of get into? And I found Parramatta Correctional Center, big empty prison.
Yeah, they would have been on board for that.
And man, like they have filmed there before. There's like episodes of Rake filmed there, like
totally.
Neighbours, Home and Away, because it's just a prison. Like you need a prison. I got a prison. I can get you a prison 3 o'clock this afternoon. And so
with bars,
yeah. And so Parramatta were like way more on board because they were like, oh yeah, we get people like you all the time. They would come film a music video or whatever. How long do you want it for? How many days? Yeah, we'll give it for this.
Well, they're all about activating space.
Well, yeah,
they love activating. That's their thing. That's their shtick.
I was surprised that it had kind of stuck around for as long as it had, but I was like, man, if they're renting out to like fucking Rake and shit, like might as well leave it standing.
Yeah.
So
I think it's too expensive to knock down.
Yeah, true. But I ended up getting like a super good deal. They cut me a deal because I was a student. I kind of got away with it. But like, I could only be there for 3 days, 12 o'clock till 10 p.m. And that was like essentially the final third of my film. So I had 30 pages to shoot in 3 days. And that was a challenge, but like, I planned it pretty meticulously, and like I went there once or twice before the shoot. Like, okay, this room's going to be this room's going to be this. We're going to shoot this then.
Yeah, how to do Rio, how to Rio. Yeah,
and so,
redeployment people. How to redeploy along as you go along.
And to make it slightly easier, I also got in touch with a Maitland jail because I was like, there's not much. I was like, I can't squeeze this scene into Parramatta, but if I go to a different prison. Because Maitland Jail at that point was like a laser tag arena.
Oh, wow.
But then, it's essentially still just a prison, just used for different purposes. So I was like, I'll split it between 2 prisons, and that'll work out fine. And it did.
Yeah, wow. No, but you got to be agile like that, right?
Well, yeah,
like you get this problem and you go, well, I just had this really bad experience with a local government where I just went. They hammered with me paperwork. They tried to fatigue me to the point where I'd just tell them no, and then eventually they realised I wasn't going to give up, and they told me to fuck off.
Yeah, fuck me.
No, fuck you. Right? Yeah. But that's a common thing that happens to a filmmaker with a LGA.
Absolutely. It kind of made me thankful that it didn't work out with those guys because like a fucking abandoned prison is way cooler. I was like, I'm so much closer to being escaped from New York now.
Yeah, but on the other token though, when you contact another LGA, then you get some traction. True. But at the same time, you still got that limited, like, oh, we're only going to give you 3 days. But then you've got to be agile and go, right, well, how do I fix that?
I was floored they gave me 1. I wasn't sure what I was going to do if that didn't pan out, but luckily it did, and I didn't have to worry about it. So,
yeah, well, it's all about salesmanship as well. You've got to be able to sell what you're trying to do.
I mean, I was very honest, like from the beginning. Anyone I talked to, I was like, look, man, I don't have much money. I'm just a student. I'm just trying to make a feature. You can help me out, right? And a lot of the time, I guess they just took pity on me. Like, look at this kid trying to make it in the world. Yeah, give him 3 days in the prison. It'll set him straight.
No, well, you got to understand what they do with the data after that. You see, they would have gone to their justification for keeping the place open, and they would have gone, "We shot
open."
Yeah. Well, no, to keep it activated. They would use a word like activated. Yeah. We activated this space, and you can see on this graph that we had 3 films made at this area, and then I have a graph and I have a map. I know what I'm talking about. That's what they do. They got to justify what they're up to. So my advice to anyone dealing with an LGA is to figure out what they're trying to report on, and then craft your salesmanship into that model.
Well, it's a good way to think about it, but I think
still a pain in the ass.
But I think what it taught me is that like things can kind of go wrong at the drop of a hat, and you have to learn to be flexible. And like if you'd asked me like a month before it happened, you're gonna have to rewrite the script in like 3 days to accommodate a new location, I would have been like, fuck you. But I had to. I had no choice. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had a movie.
But that's the other part of directing, though, right? Like, this is what I try to say. You know, when you're in a pub and someone goes, "I've got a movie idea." You make movies. I've got a movie idea. Usually I ask, well, one, do you have a script? They go, no. So, well,
it's not a movie.
You don't have a movie idea. You've got an idea for a script.
Yeah.
But then you talk to other people. They go, man, I'd like to be a director. I go, but do you write? They're like, well, no. I'm like, well, how do you expect to be a director if you don't write? They're kind of exclusive. It's hard to be a director without being a writer.
I mean, it's essentially the essence of telling a story is the director's biggest job is like, how do I get from here to here? How do I make the audience care about this character's journey? And how do I make it compelling?
And how do I compress that so it fits into this room?
Well, yeah,
or these 2 rooms?
And directing for me was a natural evolution of my inherent need to write and tell stories, which I've been doing since I was like 5. Like I always loved like free writing time in like year 6 or whatever. Like that was always my favorite thing.
Yeah, same.
Wrote comic books when I was in year 6. Fucking Jeff the Super Mouse was a series I had
Who was your early comic book influence during that
early
time?
comic book influence. I mean, back then, the amount of comics that I had, like, it was insane. The Simpsons comics.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, man, and like they were genuinely like good quality, like great stories and stuff like that. And I was like, man, if only like the latter half of the Simpsons just kind of took the stories they were telling in the comics at that point.
But no one knows the latter half of The Simpsons.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know anyone who knows that? I don't know anyone who actually knows that. Actually, I have run into some youngsters that have quoted Simpsons that I don't know.
Damn.
Scary.
What a world.
Scary.
I mean, you know, it's something that I'm sure a lot of... Obviously, people are still watching it if they're on like season 30, 30,
25,
no,
26.
they're in the 30s now, man. Like 32 or 33
Fuck
now.
me.
I know. But you know, like
I was Bart Simpson's age when Bart Simpson was Bart Simpson.
Bart Simpson. You were doing the Bartman, Roscoe.
Yeah. Now, I think my comic book influence was definitely Judge Dredd.
Oh yeah.
I love the grittiness and the
AD.
It was just raw and gritty and filthy and yeah.
No, well, since then, like my comic book kind of repertoire has expanded exponentially because like on my trips to university, because I was living on the Central Coast, but going to university near Penrith, so it was like 2-hour trip there, 2-hour trip back. I had 4 hours a day to just fucking twiddle my thumbs. Mostly played Pokemon, you know, on my DS, but you know, I also had a tablet and I was reading all these old comics. So I read like issue 1 through 400 of The Amazing Spider-Man, like the original run, all these Batman comics and other stuff like The Sandman and Watchmen and shit like that. So like comic books to me became like a kind of a possibility to enjoy, whereas like before it wasn't really an option to me because like I fucking buy so many and shit. Because I was doing it digitally, I was like, this is cool. But like that in itself started influencing how I wanted to tell stories visually, because a lot of my favorite movies I realized were they told stories visually. Some of them like not so much. Like I don't think anyone could argue that like Kevin Smith is a visual director. He's a director that tells stories through character and dialogue, and he's happy to just kind of set up a mid shot of 2 characters just fucking talking for 10 minutes. But it's great, and that's what he's good at. And then
but it's very dialogue driven, dude.
Very dialogue driven, and that's awesome. And I've always loved that. But like that's what kind of separated me from wanting to make a film like Clerks to make me want to make a film like Escape from New York.
Yeah, to be more of a show and not a teller.
Yeah, and like most of the people that became my favorite directors, like John Carpenter, Dario Argento, like Wes Craven, they had like this way of telling stories that like use like color and like different angle. Like Dario Argento in particular, like the way he uses color and like harsh primary reds and blues. Like Suspiria has been one of my favorite movies for fucking since I saw it. I was like, what a gorgeous movie. Like it makes no sense, but who gives a fuck? It's so good to look at. Like every frame you could just be like, god damn, look at the god, it's so good. And like the music and shit.
Yeah.
So like when I started making Lead Me Astray, it was like super influenced by that kind of style of filmmaking. And there were like multiple shots in my flick where it's like one half of the scene is like drenched in blue and the other half is drenched in red, and that's me essentially just trying to make a film like Dario Argento or John Carpenter. And like the soundtrack was like heavily relying on synth, because like I loved the fact that John Carpenter pretty much wrote the music for most of his films, kept it really simple, just like simple melodies, but ones that really did what they were supposed to do. Like just the other week I watched not the other week, like a week or two ago.
Oh, COVID week though.
Well, no, like
COVID week.
well, it was Halloween, so of course I had to watch John Carpenter's Halloween, which I tend to do most years. And like the Halloween theme is so simple, but it's so effective. It does everything it needs to do, and the movie itself is very much the same. It doesn't have a hugely complicated story. It's just the story of like this force of nature honing in on something he's aiming for, and it's just like a fight for survival. And no one could argue that it's like really complex and shit like that, but it does exactly what it's supposed to do, and it does it brilliantly. And that's what I loved about filmmakers like John Carpenter. It's like the movies that they made, you don't have to like bend your brain trying to figure them out, or like, and it's just so good to immerse yourself in. So when I was making Lead Me Astray, I was like, my head full of dreams, like, I'm going to be the next John Carpenter, fucking Dario Argento, Kevin Smith, I'm going to be all these people rolled into one. And it was
going to be the hybrid.
Yeah. And it was one of the most rewarding experiences because I learned what I was good at, I learned what I was bad at. But by the end of it, I had a product, I had a movie.
Yeah, totally. You got a good movie.
Yeah, and so by the time the second semester of the year rolled around and I shot my flick, everyone else was doing, because that was the final semester of university, full stop. My degree was going to be over after that, and we were doing our like final project kind of thing. Or everyone else in my class was just kind of making their short films, and I was sitting there like, short film. I was like, my movie's already shot, and some of them were like, what do you mean?
I've been shooting this for 2 years, and I'm in post-production. What have you guys been doing?
Yeah, I was in post at that point, and like, I didn't think I was going to have it ready for like the end of year screenings and stuff. That would have been a tall order, but like by the end of semester, and we had our like end of course film festival. Everyone screens the final projects they've been working on for the last semester.
Yeah, we all sit in the auditorium.
Yeah. People are screening their flicks and stuff like that, and I get up and I'm like, here's a trailer for the feature film that I shot over semester break, and everyone's like, what? And like I had Amanda there with me, and she's like, yeah, this is pretty cool. And just played the trailer to my flick, and I can see people looking around like, when this motherfucker made a feature? When the fuck did this happen? Could we do that? Were we allowed? And I was like, yo, I was the only person to ask. Like, you could have done that. We could have competed for the Black Magic.
Yeah.
would have been down to me, you, and Roscoe.
Yeah, well, I got turned away from my feature. I shouldn't have listened, because I was going to do a feature at uni as well, and then someone convinced me not to do it. I don't want to name drop.
I'll name drop the person who tried to convince me not to make.
I already know that, but we can't name drop that person either. I already know. I could see X-ray into your mind who that person is. It wasn't that person though who tried to convince me, because they tried to convince me. I'm like, no, I do not listen to you. I listen to my mentors and people I respect. Yeah, but not you.
Well, one of the peeps from university that I really loved. Larry Buttrose, the screenwriting tutor.
Yeah.
And he and I had a pretty good kind of rapport over that, because he seemed to like the fact that I was kind of ambitious in that sense, that I wanted to go out and make it.
Oh, I've ruined everything.
Classic Roscoe.
Classic.
And like when I screened the trailer at the screening of all the short films, it was like, Tom, like,
do you want another one?
Yeah, man, fill me up.
Yeah.
Fill it right up. He was like, you should be proud, and like, I'm sure you're going to go far. And I was like, thanks, Larry. Like, it really means a lot coming from you, because like, I've really enjoyed the time I've had like in your classes learning from you. So finally had a finished movie. It took another year or so after that before the movie was finally done, because I was doing everything myself. Like, it took me a while to finish editing it, because in that last semester I had like essays to write and like other films to help out on.
They expected other things of you, yeah,
which was fine, but I was like, it's cool, like for the end I'll have the trailer and I'll have like a sequence from the film as well that I can show. But like, then
essentially you used your hex to make a feature.
Yes, exactly. I gamed the system. I broke it.
Yeah, well, I used my hex to make like 10 short films. Yeah, that's essentially what I did with it.
But yeah, since I had spent like my entire childhood making like skits and short films, by the time I got to uni, I was like, I'm ready. Like, give me the feature. Like, I'm ready for that now.
Yeah.
And then the next year, I traveled for a bit. Like, I was in America for about 5 months. I was working at a performing arts camp in New York, Frenchwood's Festival of the Performing Arts. Good times. And I was working as a...
How the hell do you land there doing that?
Well, it was... I had a friend who she wanted to be like a camp counselor, and she went to America and did that whole thing. She was telling me about how great it was, and I was like, man, I could really go for like being a potential victim of Jason Voorhees. That sounds like fun. Being a summer camp guy. And like, I just come out of a long-term relationship of like 4 years. So I was kind of broken up about it. So I wanted to like travel for a bit, try new things, clear my mind, and it turned out to be like one of the best decisions I ever made. And
yeah, like, no, you got out of a relationship out of 4 years, and then yeah, that's awesome, man. It took me way longer to figure that out.
Well, like it like, of course, at the time, like, it hurt real bad, but
Yeah,
like,
I know what you're saying.
looking back, it was like the best possible thing for both of us, and I'm grateful that it happened because it allowed me to kind of explore different avenues.
It took me 6 years.
6 years, my friend.
Yeah, because that first love is difficult.
First cut is the deepest, in the words of Cat Stevens.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done, man.
Yeah.
My hat off to you. 4 years. Good on you.
And that was like from the age of 17 to 21. Which, when you're that age, is like your entire adult life.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
Before that, you're a child. You're a child. So
looking back, you're still a child. But at the time,
yeah. So
that's really harsh times.
You think it's the fucking end of the world. It's
Yeah,
not.
you do.
But
I remember
you think
thinking that too.
You think it is.
Yeah.
So I traveled. I was a camp counselor for a bit, and since it was a theater camp, so I was like all about it. And I was a assistant director for all these musicals and shit. I've never seen a place that's more kind of like. I felt like it was my speed because they're like, we're doing it, we're making musicals, we're doing this, we're doing that. I was like, this is like me last year when I was making my movie.
Yeah.
And so like over the course of 4 sessions, they put on like literally dozens of musicals. Like everyone who wants to be in a musical.
All the classics or like all different
a huge amount.
Yeah.
I worked on Little Me, which is one I hadn't heard of, but I looked into it, and like Martin Short did a run of it in like the late 90s, I think.
Really? Big fan of Martin Short.
I love him.
Yeah.
But
it's Steve Martin. When they're together, they're hilarious.
Three amigos, man.
Oh yeah, Chevy Chase as well. Yeah, absolutely.
But like, Little Me is one of those musicals where it's like, it's an excuse for an actor to show off their acting chops because there's 7 roles for one actor, because it's the story of like a one female character going through 7 relationships, and each relationship is played by the same guy. So it's good fun. After that, there was a musical called Bat Boy, which I was super psyched about because it was like a 50s horror movie, but it just turned into a musical.
Okay.
And it was essentially...
He turns into a bat?
Well, no, it's one of those movies where it's like... musicals where, a child is found in the woods and he's brought into suburbia and they have to try and educate him and stuff like that, and he's been raised by bats. It's so weird, but it's great. And then there was Damn Yankees, and then I worked on The Odd Couple, which isn't a musical, but it's just a play. But like other musicals they put on were like West Side Story, like Jesus Christ Superstar.
That's what I mean. Then they go through the classics, but then they have their own written ones.
But then there was like wacky stuff like Zombie Prom.
That sounds great.
And like Dogtown and Dogfight and shit like that.
So you're over in New York doing this for a year or so?
No, it was only for one summer, so it was about 3 months.
3 months, okay.
And one of the best times of my life. It was
Sounds
so fun.
fantastic.
And I met some of the friends that to this day, like I continue to call some of my best and closest friends. I still talk to them very often. And after the camp ended, it is essentially the unspoken agreement between all the people who go to the camp. Once camp ends, you kind of travel around the country and stay with all the people that you've met. So like for a month afterwards, I traveled around the US staying with like campers and other counselors.
I remember this. I was like, what the hell is Tom doing, man? He's just all over the US.
Going all over the place.
All over the place.
It was good shit. And I went to...
I thought you were doing a documentary or something.
But like I decided my itinerary based on who wanted me to stay with them. So I ended up in Boston. I ended up in Washington, D.C. I ended up in Arizona. I ducked down to New Orleans for a bit. Just this by myself. I didn't have anyone there, but I just wanted to go to the French Quarter. Then I ended up in Florida. And then after that, went to England to visit family because my mom's British. And then I landed in Japan with my dad. Met up with him for the first time in a few months because Dad and I are we're really into just Japanese, we're kind of weeaboos. but Japanese history and food, we're all about it. So Dad and I were in Japan for a bit, which was great. And then I came back to Australia. And, once you travel, you come back and everything's the same, but you've changed,
Yeah, totally. well, you've just moved through the stages of being, finding your teeth as an artist, which is like a really hard thing to do for any walk of life. To find yourself as an artist is a difficult thing. Then to get education and then to be well travelled, perfect time to be making movies.
Well,
man.
yeah, and so I was coming back, and I had left the film in the hands of my composer / sound mixer, a guy called Michael Voliver, and he was on my level in the sense of he knew exactly what I wanted out of the movie with the synth soundtrack and the 80s kind of vibe to it and shit. He was like, I'm all about that. So while I was traveling, he was working on that. So I kind of had that going in the background. And the poster came out while I was in America. So I still kind of had the illusion of the film kind of the wheels were turning, even though I was kind of out of the country. I had other people working on it at that time. Because one of the things I learned in uni was that the best thing to do is surround yourself with people who are more talented than you are.
Totally.
And they can do what you can't do. And I was like, I am not a sound mixer. I am not a musician. I am not John Carpenter. He can do the piano. I can't do that. I'll let Michael do it. So he was working on that. And by the time I got back, I pretty much had a movie, pretty much finished. Did the color correction and shit like that. And I ended up having the premiere in October 2015.
Yeah, it was around 2015. The Orpheum,
the Hayden Orpheum in Cremorne, which is a fucking beautiful
great
cinema.
venue.
I love it so much.
Yeah. You inspired me, man. As soon as I get my content out, that's where I'm hitting it. Absolutely.
Well, there was such a lovely theatre for this feature we're working on now, Sweethurt. It was pretty much down to the Hayden Orpheum or the Ritz, but because of COVID restrictions, the Ritz was a little more, I'll say, agreeable. So kind of what we were after, but rules kept changing. And at one point they were only allowed 30% capacity, but then it changed to 50% capacity. No Time to Die was scheduled to come out on November 12th, but then it was pulled. So things kept changing. So I really genuinely feel for independent cinemas, pretty much all cinemas now, they keep getting fucked. Man.
Oh, dude, as someone that is in conversation with cinemas all the time,
I'm sure for Made in the West, a few caveats have had to be.
Oh, dude, we've been on a journey. We've been on a massive journey because of this issue. But with that said, we literally war gamed it. We war gamed.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. We worked out every possible.
What, the only way to win is not to play?
I watched that the other day on Stan, actually. War games for the TV illiterate boobs out there. The only way to win is not to play. I was actually looking for a soundboard of Joshua's voice. I wanted to get on my phone just to really nerd out on that. No, but we literally war gamed the whole lot. From total apocalypse, can we still run the festival? Turns out we can. So if the world is ending, we can still run our little film festival.
But so many festivals now are all just virtual, all online, which it's the best they can possibly do.
Well, we're doing both.
Well, yeah, but in for America, an example, they're not doing jack shit. They have to go virtual, and it's not the same. From some, I've been to my share of festivals, and just doing it online, it's not quite the same. But no one wants this to last forever. But in the interim, it's the best we can do, and I applaud the film festivals of the world and the cinemas for kind of doing it tough and finding ways to kind of make it work, even though it's not an ideal situation.
Well, I think there's something really weird has come out of this for us as an organisation. One, we learnt that we were very agile. We got content out that was COVID orientated, well, not COVID as in the subject, but orientated for people that were isolated. So we got content out straight away. We're running our Made in the West Rewind. So we went back through all of our festivals that we've done, and we published that content. And then put it out.
Look at this guy, genius.
No, because then we get to revamp old content.
you got a huge swathe of content just sitting there
doing nothing.
No reason not to kind of revamp it.
You got a whole bunch of people that are sitting at home doing nothing.
Genius.
Put it out there, and we got to invigorate people about filmmaking in our region. So what came off the back of that was then working out, right, then how do we expand the festival? We got into two cinemas, and at the end of that we do a online festival. What I've learnt out of that as well is that if you have a physical festival, in this day and age, you have to have an online festival. It just allows more coverage for your filmmakers.
That's actually a really good point. I hadn't thought about it.
You get way more coverage. They both complement each other.
Yeah, that's true.
Because then what the online festival does is it invites people to come next year to the physical festival. Right. And the people that are doing the physical festival, they go, I didn't get a friend here, and I wish they could see it. Well, we're recording this whole thing, this whole event. We're doing red carpet interviews. We're doing in-cinema interviews, and we're going to package that together so that your friend that missed out tonight can watch it next week.
Genius.
So I think those two things are exclusive, but I think you got a point. If you just do the online festival, then it's bland. It misses that. It doesn't have that je ne sais quoi.
Well, yeah, the communal factor of being able to rub shoulders, either figuratively or literally, with other people who are kind of on your level, who are doing the same thing you are, telling different stories, being able to be there, look someone in the eye, and be like, "Man, I really liked your film. Like that was cool. How'd you do that?"
Yeah, and watching that audience response.
Yeah, and it's something that I've really come to appreciate in its absence, because I remember we'd released the Lead Me Astray trailer beforehand, but we screened it at Made in the West that year, and it was cool just sitting there in the audience for like seeing the trailer on the big screen, seeing people react to it. I was like, "Oh man, this is cool." Roscoe's doing well.
Yeah, man. But the thing is, it's an absolute pleasure showing people's trailers for feature work that's made in Western Sydney.
Well, yeah,
we have at least 2 or 3 every year.
And it's awesome.
Every year we got new ones.
And it's like you never know some of the content that you guys have kind of showcased. It's actually gone, because I remember at that festival, I'm pretty sure there was a scene from Wormwood before it was. Oh
wow, that was way. That was the Roxy.
Way before.
That was the Roxy Hotel in Parramatta.
Way before the movie was finished or came out. But they were just kind of trying to get the movie out there at that point.
Yeah, it was one of those things. I think it was one of the leg ups that it gave those guys.
So I remember when I went to the cinema to see Wormwood on that, because it had that thing where it came out the same night in a bunch of different cinemas, and it was a one night only. So I want to get everyone. It was cool. They did a Q&A session afterwards, but like, I remember watching the movie, I was like, I've fucking seen this before. I saw it Made in the West.
Yeah, man. That's what I mean. Like, those guys at that time had raised about 30 grand for their film, but they got it on 3 screens as a short, and then they got the rest of their funding.
Yeah.
So it was organisations like ours that, we were showcasing, man, we've got artists out here that are doing, like, some serious work. That's what, like, every year, like, we've got so many people that are showing up to this thing that is unbelievable. The amount of content that we get is unbelievable. This year's content will blow your fucking mind, man. Like, because we've got 2 cinemas now, we can almost double the content that we show.
That's true.
So
people got a choice. They got to choose. Do I want to see this or that?
That's right. They got the choice between the marathon or the awards ceremony. Right. So we do the awards in one, or the marathon in the other.
I was with a friend of mine just this past week. We went and saw Akira Kurosawa's Ran, the film we made in 1985, which is like a sprawling Shakespearean epic set in feudal Japan. It's a great film. But he was asking me what I was doing this week, and I was like, I'm doing a podcast with my boy Roscoe. He was like, have I met him? And I was like, no, but... And I started telling him about you and, everything you've done. And I was like, essentially, Ross is Western Sydney filmmaking. He has fostered that community and turned it into something that simply wasn't there before. Yeah. And allowed people an avenue to kind of get their content out there, myself included.
Yeah. Well, I agreed to that to some extent. What I saw was what was already here. All I had to do was I just saw it as all fluid, and all I had to do was solidify it. I'm just an agent in that chemical reaction that solidified it. That's all I see myself as in that community.
So it's so like for someone who has recognized that. Like when I was a fucking nobody, I still am nobody, but when I was just a university nobody, and you were like, you want to screen your trailer at the film festival, I was like, you want me to? Yeah, of course. Like, here you go. Like, it felt like I was getting validation for even having the balls to say I wanted to make a movie, and then I had you coming to me saying, "Do you want me to screen the trailer?"
Yeah, let's promote your work. Let's get it out there.
And that is invaluable to a young artist. I sometimes I hesitate to call myself an artist, but like. It's you never.
You got 2 features up the belt. I think you can get away with it now.
That's true. But you never get. Like, it's never a bad thing to give an artist validation or give them encouragement because you never know what that person is capable of. Like, there's no reason to look at a young artist and say you shouldn't be doing what you're doing or to disparage them in any way. Like, even if what they're making isn't great, you can say, you're so much potential. Like I can see you doing so much better and making stuff that's really great.
I see this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Because I see all the content made in Western Sydney. All of it. Literally all of it.
You are filmmaking in Western Sydney.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Well, I take that. I think that's a compliment. I'm not sure.
It is absolutely a compliment.
I definitely I do see all of the content, and I've watched it over the last 10 years, and I can tell you that how it is growing, and it is exponential. It's actually going to a point where I'm like, I can't
keep up.
I can't keep up with it, and I can't even believe that it's happening. I can't believe that this content is happening in our region. But speaking of trailers, we've got a trailer showing up at Made in the West this year.
Yes, we do.
For your recent film, Sweethurt.
Indeed. So, Sweethurt is the you call it the brainchild or the love child of Logan and myself. One of the two.
I'd go with the brain love child.
There you go.
Yeah.
But after Lead Me Astray, he and I became bestest buds, and I was traveling, and I made the movie. The movie came out. It was all good. Mm-hmm. He wanted to make a movie as well, and he ended up making a flick called Remember Redfield, which was like a slasher film heavily inspired by movies like Scream and Clue, like that murder mystery kind of deal. And it was even lower budget than Lead Me Astray, but we just shot it inside the house he was living in at the time, and poached a good few actors from Lead Me Astray and his friends, who are some of them performers and stuff like that. Shot it in just over a few months, just before the Lead Me Astray premiere, actually. And, he got it together, and it had its premiere in 2018, I believe. But, that kind of solidified our love for working together, and the fact that we have very similar sensibilities in what we look for in a film, which is like, above all else, you should be entertained. Like, it's all good. It's wonderful for a movie to make you think and to make you reflect, but above all else, it's telling you a story, and you should be invested in that story. And we disagree so much on certain films. Like, I will defend Mulholland Drive my whole life because I love David Lynch.
I fucking love that movie, man.
Thank you, sir.
I love that movie.
But Logan will go down fighting.
I want you to get that fucking manual. I want you to study it.
He will go down fighting, telling you that it's just a piece of garbage. But that's fine. It's a very divisive
There's
film.
so many Easter eggs in this film, though, dude. Logan, what's your problem? There's so many Easter eggs in this movie, man. Like, even the car is realistic. Like, the car, the Mercedes, right, is proper. Like, it's not like a fake engine. It's like a proper 5-litre Mercedes.
He's going to get so angry when he watches that.
We love you, Logan. We love you.
But the films that we do love, and we share that love, like, we have a huge mutual hard-on for. Like, the tips hit, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, movies like
Docking Stage.
Yeah, movies like Back to the Future and Starship Troopers and Pacific Rim. But then also other films like Clue and comedies like Rat Race and American Pie. And our comedic sensibilities are also very similar. And when we decided to make another movie, we were like, let's make a comedy. Like, we're both really funny. Why haven't we made a comedy yet? And so
What's the hardest to write? Comedy's the hardest to write,
well,
I reckon.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. But, for someone who, like, I grew up on the comedy of, like, Fawlty Towers and Blackadder, like, British comedy.
You're speaking my language, man.
Yeah.
I love Rowan Atkinson and the Blackadder series. They're fantastic shows.
That my entire sense of humor and pretty much my attitude towards people in general comes from Blackadder. Like, my customer service voice is pretty much just Blackadder. I'm so rude. I don't need to be, but I am. But
it's not a requirement. It's just something that I do.
Yeah. And, the movies that I grew up loving and the TV shows that I grew up loving, I didn't really see Australia making too many of those. Now, let's talk about Australian comedy for a bit. My favorite Australian...
Touchy subject.
Yeah, I know, right? Exactly. But it shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be.
My favorite comedy TV show is the Australian, at least, is The Adventures of Lano and Woodley.
I haven't watched that.
Okay, so Lano and Woodley are two comedians who have been around since the early to mid 90s, and they had a TV show, I believe it started in 1997, called The Adventures of Lano and Woodley, and they just shot it in Victoria or Adelaide, wherever they were from. Literally just two seasons of about 6 to 8 episodes, I think, but like the pilot was directed by Bob Spears, one of the guys who directed Fawlty Towers. And it's just an excellent blend of physical comedy and like wordplay, and just it's clever, but it's also really dumb. And sometimes something that's really dumb is so funny.
Yeah, but that's what invites that escapism, right? Sometimes you don't want to think deeply about something. Sometimes you just want to laugh and have a crack.
What you were saying about comedy being the hardest to write, it's really difficult to write something that's dumb in a clever way, because something is only dumb if the people making it know that it's dumb. If people are just making something and it's dumb by proxy, it's not really that funny. And Lena Woodley is one of those TV shows where it's like super underrated, and they have...
I'm going to check this out.
Oh, you absolutely should, but they're mostly like a duo that perform live. They do like live shows, and
I like the Rick Mail sort of
Adrian
style.
Edmondson,
Yeah, I gotcha.
that kind of thing. And they were on a hiatus for about 12 years or something like that. They did like their final goodbye show in 2006, but they did a revival in like 1 or 2 years.
It was either they had kids or they got on drugs. It's one of the two.
Well, you know, it was. But when they ended their kind of partnership, it was like, we want to try other things. It's been great, but you know, let's see what else we can do. And they both did other things. Like Frank Woodley, one of the half, did his own solo shows and was on a TV show or two. Colin
sounds like they had kids.
Colin hosted Ready Steady Cook, so that must have been fun for him.
Oh man! Oh, you that's the guy? Dude, you talking about the host of Ready Steady Cook?
I'm not sure if he was the only host, but I know he did host it at one point.
Dude. Oh man, like I know, like not to bag people out, but because as a profession, I used to have to watch TV professionally.
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy, but it's a job I used to have to do.
Yeah.
I had to watch TV for a living, and I had to watch Ready Steady Cook a real lot. And man, he likes to wrap things in bacon. I can't. It's amazing. Like we take bets. Like, is he gonna wrap that in bacon? Tuna. He's not gonna do it. I reckon he's gonna wrap it in bacon. Tuna wrapped in bacon.
So, like, when it comes...
Massive tangent. I know.
But when it comes to, like, the world of Australian comedy feature films... Let's be let's be real.
Massive void.
It's kind of shitting the bed a little bit. What is there?
Yeah.
Let's name as many as we can right now.
Oh man, I can only think about Ozploitation films.
But yeah, but that's its own thing, because you got shit like Dead End Drive-In, you got Razorback, you got Patrick. But that's like,
well, then they're comedical horror films.
They have elements of comedy, but I'm talking like straight up.
What's his name? Alan Purple.
Oh yeah, fucking.
So they're like sexploitation.
Yeah,
films.
he had his whole thing, but like. Movie like that, if you're talking about like strictly Australian comedy, that's the
Crocodile Dundee.
But even that is set in New York. Think about that.
Yeah.
A movie that people point to as like, that is an excellent example of Australian comedy in Australian cinema. I lean in and I'm like, it's set in New York. Yeah. It's all about, it's a fish out of water story about an Australian who goes there. And like, it's funny in the sense that, look at this wacky guy trying to interact with us normal people. And it's not, and don't forget, it's a good film. Like any like self-respecting Australian can know and love.
It is very well. It is well quoted.
Crocodile Dundee, but like movies and stories that are homegrown and set here, how many do we really have?
I think the only one that I can think of recently is stuff like Fat Pizza and
which I will go on record saying that it's garbage.
Well, I think they're doing okay things, but I get what you're talking about, because that Fat Pizza is kind of a bit kitsch in a way.
It is a little bit, and I understand the appeal, because like I'm the first person to kind of making fun of yourself is an excellent way to tell stories, because you're like, well, I know what makes me laugh, and I make me laugh, and my friends make me laugh. Let's make and tell stories about ourselves, making fun of each other, like, and that's good, and I can appreciate Fat Pizza, but like. I remember when I was...
I like the show better. The show was better than the movie.
Like, let's look at, like, I was walking down, when you go to the movies...
When Rebel Wilson was in it was all right.
When you walk down the hallway of, like, a cinema, and you got to go to cinema 1, 2, 3, 4, and they got the posters all lined up for movies coming up. I remember seeing the poster for, like, Fat Pizza versus Howzo's. and it had like the characters on the front, and like the features are exaggerated, and it's essentially an amalgamation of all the worst elements of Australian stereotypes.
Yeah.
And I feel as though we have the capacity to tell stories that go beyond that.
And Western Sydney stereotypes, to be really frank.
Exactly.
And that's part of the, like, it is adverse to the idea of the stigma that we do suffer in Western Sydney.
Picture if, like, let's say America made movies that were essentially just making fun of rednecks. That's pretty much what...
That's what it is. Yeah, you got a point.
We need to do more than that. I'm not saying those movies shouldn't be made, but I am saying that those shouldn't be our only export, and the only elements and the only examples we can think of when we try to think of Australian comedy.
I think you got a point though. There is definitely a void there.
There is, and like there are other movies that you can kind of throw in there, like Babe is a comedy, even though it's a children's film.
Yeah, I don't, but it's still not what you're talking about.
It's not, and like. When Logan and
what is the American Pie? What is the Australian Pie? Is essentially the question you're asking.
Sweethurt.
Sweethurt. All right.
You know that void Roscoe's talking about? I just filled it.
Well, have you screened Sweethurt yet?
No, it's the first screening is Friday, November 27th at the Ritz Cinema in Randwick.
Okay.
I'm very excited about it because it is pretty much our attempt to fill that void. Because when you look at, like, let's talk about high school for a second. And when you're in high school, you see movies and you see TV shows and you want to see yourself in them. Not so much in the sense that...
Yeah, that moment when you go, I know that guy.
Exactly, I know that guy. It's not necessarily about... I won't talk about representation in the sense of like that person is like has the same color as my skin or anything like that. It's more about my friends talk about the same shit, or like we get into the same kind of zany situations.
Yeah, and the same sort of idiosyncrasies.
It's idiosyncrasy, stuff that transcends race and transcends creed, transcends religion, stuff like that. And when it comes to Australian high schoolers or Australian young adults, how many movies do we have that deal with those kind of demographics? And there's really none. There are people who are making kind of independent films that kind of go along that route, and that's good, but like we need more of that. There are multiple examples you can think of from other countries that do exactly that. If we're going to talk about American Pie, we can talk about Say Anything, we can talk about The Breakfast Club.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm a big John Hughes fan, actually.
Yeah, man, of course. And like when I was in high school, the movies that I related to weren't from Australia, and I was like, Imagine living in a country where what the art they are creating doesn't reflect the people in the country. Isn't that weird? The movies that tend to get made, not to burn any bridges, but by Screen Australia, they tend to tell...
Don't worry, they're not funding our shit anyway. So.
Oh man, Roscoe, I'm feeling you on a cosmic level right now.
Man, I have application fatigue. That's what I got.
But like the stories they
not disgruntled at all.
Yeah, no, me neither. The stories they tend to tell, they tend to skew very, very much towards a heightened sense of Australiana.
Totally.
You'll see a lot of movies set in the desert, about farmers, about shit like that, about dogs.
Yeah. Oh, well, they have stated. I have, because I go to their meetings. Well, not their meetings. Their public discussion groups. So I go to those. It's kind of like a therapy session, really, for people that don't get funding. But. So I go along to the... Well, you got to go along, right? You go along to get the information. And they have stated that they're moving away from this Australiana concept. But
is that why they made Rams?
Yeah, but I'm yet to see the film that they are using as their measuring stick to make that statement true. So I'm still waiting for that to happen.
Look, like it's...
So yeah, I'm happy to bag them out. Yeah.
Like, again, like I'm not saying that those movies that they tend to lean toward, like movies like Rams or like Red Dog or Surfing Safari or whatever the fuck that movie was called. I'm not saying those movies shouldn't be made, but I am saying they are not the only movies that Screen Australia should be producing. I think that's garbage. Where's the variety?
Well, I'm glad that there are Tom Dangers out there doing this kind of content.
Well,
man.
yeah, and it's so weird because like if as I know you like me have application fatigue, they have the kind of questions on there that are all about like do you identify as trans or gay or are you from this diverse race or religion or whatever?
Yeah, what box can I tick to get this through?
And I'm sitting there thinking like why does that matter? Like what does it matter? Like if I were gay, what does that matter?
What does that even matter?
Who cares? And especially with a film like Sweethurt, because my lead, Rav, who's a wonderful actor, he's from Sri Lanka. And my second lead, Tyra, and my third lead, Rian, they're both half Asian. And my fourth lead, Mikey, he's Syrian. You gotta go 4 characters down the list before you get to a white guy. So if you're talking about like check boxes that you want to tick, I inadvertently...
Yeah, but inadvertently is the key here, right? The same thing happens at Made in the West, man. We get organisations that come up to us and they say, they give us a pat on the back. They say, it's really good that you're promoting female directors. We go, we're not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. It's not on... Who cares?
It so happens that a
female director
won.
And what they did was good.
The film won.
Yeah.
And they made it. But we don't cater to anything like that. If anything, it's the hardest thing to do. It is the hardest thing to take a film and go, which one's better?
Yeah, it is.
It's a really difficult thing to do. And if you start bringing, that kind of politics into that decision process,
I feel
you're just going to corrupt the system.
It's a very easy way to kind of muddy the waters. And I didn't cast Rav because he isn't white. I cast Rav because he's an excellent actor and he's so funny and I love him.
He fits the role.
Yeah, and the reason I cast Mikey was because he makes me laugh effortlessly. He's just one of those guys where you meet him and you're like, someone needs to put you in a movie, and I did. And like, one of the roles in Sweethurt was written for an actress who was white. She ended up not being in the film, but we replaced her with someone who wasn't white. Who cares? It wasn't like a calculated move like we should fill that void with a minor or something like that.
Yeah, but talent is talent.
Talent is talent.
Talent is talent.
And they are all talented, and you just kind of have to let the pieces fall into place. And I don't see that very often from movies that Screen Australia tends to make, and the movies that I would have liked to watch when I was younger coming out of Australia, they never seem to make.
No.
And
I totally agree with that, 100%.
And what I like about Sweethurt and what I liked about Lead Me Astray was, like, when I was younger, I would have really dug to see this movie coming out of Australia, and I guess I had no choice but to make it myself.
Well, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
But hey, look, if people want to go see Sweethurt, how do they go about that?
So
we'll pause that for a moment.
Just belching slightly.
Yeah, this is what happens. I feed too much cider and too much beer on the show.
Yeah.
It's all my fault.
Well, like I said, Sweethurt is screening for the first time in Sydney on Friday, November 27th at the Ritz Cinema in Randwick.
So just rock up, get a ticket?
Well, I would highly advise going to the Ritz website and buying a ticket there because of COVID restrictions, they can only fill up to 50% capacity.
Yeah, and I totally recommend pre-booking for these things because there's someone that is a promoter and a booking person. They're being rightly quite strict about seating, and like if one seat is taken, then 2 seats on either side must be kept empty. So like that's I've got a good formula for them.
Yeah,
I've got the formula. I've got the formula. We call it the bubble formula.
There you go.
No, but if you show up as a group, right? Because if you go to any venue in an Uber together, you're together. You're already sitting in a cab. Or
if one of you has COVID, you all have it.
You all have it now, all right. But what we do is we put them in bubbles.
Yeah.
So we put them in group bubbles.
Which makes sense.
So we get them to do group bookings.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. So that's my advice to anyone doing this kind of thing.
It's absolutely the best way to do it. And with a place like the Ritz, which is like an 836-seat cinema, so we can only sell 418 tickets. So, like, if you look at and I do this every day because I'm anxious about how many tickets we're selling. You look at the map.
What do you mean you're getting anxious over your ticket sales? No, we never do that. It's just going to happen. It'll be fine.
Open up the thing, you see how many seats are taken. I have to keep in mind that, like, half the seats I see that are empty cannot be filled. Like, literally cannot be filled. I can only fill half of those tickets.
Yeah.
So, like, if anyone is interested in coming, and I'm telling this to my friends and family, I'm like, please do not wait because they will turn you away.
So definitely get on site, guys. Just on hearing that, like the last film I went to of yours, Lead Me Astray, was totally booked out. I was lucky.
It wasn't totally booked out, but it was almost a full house.
Yeah, I did,
which I really liked.
I had to get in early to get the seat that I wanted. It was definitely a packed house. Like you might have had a couple of the front rowers left, but if you don't want to be sitting in the front row at this film, make sure you get online at the Ritz Cinema to check out Sweethurt, filling the void of comedy in Australia and New South Wales. But look, hopefully I get to see you at Made in the West this year.
I'm hoping to.
Yeah.
So when? Sorry, when?
21st.
Roscoe, you tell me. Do what I just did, but for Made in the West.
Yeah, 21st of November, guys. 21st of November. Come and see some content. Come and see, if you want to see the trailer, all right, you obviously can go online, but if you want to see the trailer on the big screen, you can see Sweethurt's trailer at Made in the West Marathon or Made in the West Gala event.
Well, the trailer I gave Roscoe was one, because Roscoe messaged me. He was like, Tom, 1 minute trailer. And I was like, oh, fuck, I don't have one of those. All right, give me a few days.
You guys always do this to me. Every time I go to a feature fucking director, you all say the same fucking thing. I don't know what is with you. I go to a short filmmaker, they understand 30 seconds. They get it because in their mind things are short. You need to be punchy. You need to be fucking direct. Every time.
But
What is with you guys?
It was difficult getting like the trailer we ended up going with, like the full length, like 2 minute 15-second trailer. We went through 4 trailers before we landed on this one that we liked, and because we really wanted the trailer that we put out to be like the best possible one. And the previous incarnations that we made, we were like, it's good, but it's not perfect, and it's not where it needs to be. And the song that we got for the trailer in particular was made by a guy called Shane Henderson, and we found, I can't remember what the website or anything, but he's essentially a guy who speaks our language, because like the whole soundtrack and the whole feeling of the movie, because we were going for that American Pie, fucking what's that other movie with Seth Green? I'm totally blanking.
I'm totally blanking now as well.
Don't tell me. Shut up.
No, I'm not. Wait. You don't need to worry about me.
Also, I literally use it as an example all the time, but because I've had some ciders, I'm blanking on it.
What are we talking about? No, you're not talking about a Seth Rogen film.
No. Seth Green. High school party. No, it's gone.
Oh, now you've got it on the tip of my brain.
Yeah, no. Hold on. Can't hardly wait.
Can't hardly wait.
I can't believe I couldn't remember. I literally use it as an example all the time.
Well, the movie that screws me over is not another teen movie, because it's got so many movies inside that movie.
I'll say this right now. Not a teen movie. One of the best comedies of 2001.
Yeah, man. That was really good.
I fucking love Not a Teen
Oh, man. If you are pressed for time, watch that film, because you'll get 20 movies, 40 movies in one go.
It's so good. But that whole era of like late 90s, early 2000s young adult comedy, where Can't Hardly Wait came out, American Pie, there was Road Trip, there was Euro Trip.
Great movies.
All movies that had like this really energetic pop punk soundtrack, where it was like, is Blink-182 on the soundtrack? Yes, sign me right up. Yeah. That whole feeling.
Late night, come home, work sucks, I know.
This Sweethurt is very much a child of that kind of generation, and we really wanted to kind of skew the vibe and the feeling of the movie very much in that direction. So the soundtrack we've gotten is very reminiscent of like late 90s, early 2000s pop punk. We didn't get Blink-182. We didn't even try it, because we were like, we can't afford that.
No.
But we got some really excellent bands who very much have that vibe. And some of the bands we did get, I cannot believe.
I love it when that happens, though.
I cannot believe.
Love it when it happens.
Now, I don't know
Depends
about...
who you contact, though.
I don't know about you, Roscoe, but if you were alive in the late 90s, you know Third Eye Blind. And their music permeated that kind of genre.
Yeah.
You can any movie from that genre, you can usually find like Semi-Charmed Life or like totally. Graduate, something from Third Eye Blind's like first or second album.
They even appear in some films, I think, being at the high school air quotations prom. Well, I'm not saying that wrong. It's prom.
Prom.
At the prom. I think they even do it. One of the movies that they're in.
One of them. But like, Third Eye Blind are one of my favorite bands, because to me, if you just kind of put headphones on, close your eyes, and listen to their music, you are in 2001 or you are in 1999, and you can see yourself skateboarding on like a Sunday afternoon and going with your friends to like a Blockbuster. They encapsulate that kind of feeling.
Shit, man, you just described like 1/3 of my childhood.
Exactly. and like and I wanted so badly. And
back in the VHS, kids. That was back when VHS was the thing.
And there were 2 songs in particular from Third Eye Blind that I put in the film just kind of as placeholders, because I was like, this is the kind of song I want here. But I was like, man, I'll ask. I was like, what is the worst that can happen?
They can say no.
I was like, the worst they can do is say no, and then I'm right back where I am right now. Yeah. And it took me a while, because initially I had the mindset of, I'll do everything myself. And just kind of started contacting record labels and publishers or the band's managers and shit like that, which is an absolute clusterfuck.
Totally.
If you do not know what you're doing when it comes to music licensing, then straight up don't do it.
No, give me a call, man.
Find someone.
I know how to navigate through that shit. I do it for guys all the time.
Fuck, man.
I help them write their emails. I help them get their creative
You got to
license.
fill out the things where it's like term, territory,
Dude, give me a
duration,
call.
all that crap.
Give me a call.
Well, I gave someone a call because I got to the point where I was like, if I insist on doing this myself, it will never get done. And I was like, I feel like it's possible if I just get someone. It's possible. So 2 songs by
Navigator.
Yeah, 2 songs by Third Eye Blind, and there was another song I wanted by a band called Mest. Who were also around in like the late 90s, early 2000s, very much had that sound I was after. And another song by a band called The Struts, who are probably my favorite band of like the last few years.
Okay.
They released their first album, I think, in 2014, and pretty much this in your mind right now, Roscoe, I want you to picture the love child of Freddie Mercury and Joan Jett.
Okay.
The lead singer of The Struts is that human being.
Wow.
He has like the charisma of Mick Jagger and like the musical sensibilities of all great 70s rock band. And the whole band, I should say, are fucking excellent. And I listened to their first album like 2 years ago, and I was like, "Fuck me, these guys are going to be huge." Like I'm calling it right now. It might take a while, but they are going to get there. And their second album came out, and there was a song on there called Body Talks, and I was like, "Fuck, I need to use this song.
I need this music.
I need to use this song." And it was one of those things where you associate a song so closely with a scene that you cannot picture it without it. Because if I were to remove this song from the scene, I will forever watch the scene and be... It's not as good as it was before.
Yeah, but you need to have the music is a precursor. You need to be writing to music. You need to be, because it's a rhythmic process.
Yeah, it is.
But we're about to unpack a whole other wormhole here, and I've only got 5 minutes left.
Damn, son.
Yeah. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm going to upgrade the podcast next year.
Nice.
So I can do more time. But look,
I feel like we've got so much more to say, Roscoe.
I know, but we're running out of time, man. I could talk to you for hours, Tom. I could talk to you for fucking hours.
I remember, well, you know what, Roscoe? After Lead Me Astray, you were the person I talked to the most at the bar across the street afterwards.
Yeah.
We got quite drunk. You bought me many drinks.
I did.
But
yeah.
we talked...
I have a habit of doing that.
Yeah, well, we talked for hours, and it's nice to do so again.
Yeah, man. Well, look, don't forget to go and check out Sweethurt at the Ritz coming out on the 27th. And as well, check out Tom's work online. You've got Lead Me Astray that's out there. Is Lead Me Astray out there? Where can I find that?
It's on Ozflix.
Oh, yeah?
You know, the Australian... It's not really an equivalent of Netflix, but, you know, it's a database of Australian films. And I think it's serving a really good purpose, honestly.
Yeah, you should be checking out Ozflix anyway. They're a great organisation.
They got good shit on there. They got stuff like The Loved Ones and, like, old Ozploitation shit as well. Like, it's good stuff on there.
It's some good stuff on there, so you guys definitely check it out. But, look, man, thank you so much for being on the show. I just think you're one of those diamonds in the rough, man. It's really good to talk to you.
Roscoe, thank you for having me. You're not a diamond in the rough. You are a diamond that's as big as the mountain the other diamonds are buried in.
Well, on that note, don't forget to come and subscribe to the Pagey Train, and if you are enjoying the show, don't forget to hit the little notifications button right about there. And you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Anchor, and basically anywhere you can find a podcast, really. We'll be out on iHeartRadio next year, because we are expanding. That's right, we're getting a lot more attention, and people are starting to enjoy it. They should have been it originally, really.
Absolutely. What are they waiting for?
What are you waiting for? Subscribe. But look, and as well, look, if you want to work on a short film or a feature film, talk to me, especially about Foley art. Love doing sound design. I've got my whole studio here. Love building sound and love making movies. So just
Roscoe will MacGyver any item you have into any sound you want.
I will, man. I will make it sound better than real. But once again, you've been watching the Pagey Train, and we'll see you next time.
What an excellent sign-off you have.
Thanks, man. I've been working on it. Oh, dude, that was awesome.
Oh, man.
What a great episode.
Weird coming back to the real world.